without further ado, here is every 2026 Thomas character. Let's go. Now, our confirmed main cast based on promos and merchandise includes Thomas, Henry, Gordon, James, Percy, and Nia. Now, our returnees, the part you've all been waiting for, which is also largely based on promotional material and merchandise. We have Edward. Now, there's a massive controversy with him not getting a die-cast model. I'll explain this at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Toby and Henrietta, Doug, Oliver and Toad, Emily, Bill and possibly Ben. Only Bill is getting a die-cast model right now, but the twins are inseparable, so we'll just have to wait and see what they do with that. Rosie, presumably in her regular glue, however we're yet to confirm this. With Hero, Charlie, Diesel, Mavis, Salty, and Renee. Now our rolling stock. We've got Annie and Clarabelle, Scruffy, Bruno from Orange and Scope, the Troublesome Truck, and the Troublesome Plankton. Now, our vehicles and cranes. We have Flynn, Harold, and Cranky. And finally, our humans. We have just one confirmed human, and that is the one we all know and love, Sir Topham Hatt. Now, here is some extra info on the 2026 show, plus my personal thoughts on. Now, firstly, looking at this cast list, there is one notable discrepancy. All the staple secondary characters of the Brenner era have disappeared. Where are they? Now, I am well aware that this is a new show. Even our own Thomas and Friends was new once, and that started off with a very small cast. I feel like they are potentially going to keep the same trend with this new show, hence the limited cast of the first series. Of course, as Thomas and Friends progressed, the cast grew to what it was at the height of the CGI series, where basically everyone was here. Potentially, the new show could take this direction and introduce fan favourites like Daisy, Ben, Stanley later down the track. But for now, you just gotta wonder, how did classics like the Small Railway Engines or the Ulstead Castle Crew get beaten out by nobodies such as Whiff and Charlie? And I say, I have an explanation for you, which I'm going to elaborate more on when I talk about Edward and merchandise. Anyways, guess who else is back? Scruffy is returning, our first long-time returning character. When was the last time he appeared? Season 5? I, for one, am really excited to see what they do with him. Next we got no Rebecca. And just as a surprise, the token newbie of Guava has disappeared. From season 22 to 24, they were pushing Rebecca so hard, and suddenly, she's gone. No merchandise, no promos, no nothing. Now, I'm okay with this decision. To me, Rebecca was the nothing character of the show. I feel like this can be summed up in her pseudo title, Rebecca, the happy engine. That's all she is, happy. Her role could be replaced by literally any other character. She has no substance, no personality, no uniqueness to her, no nothing. Heck, her first Spotlight episode is about her finding her own identity. who, at the end of the show, realizes she's just a generic happy engine. Even her only unique character dynamic, her and Gordon, could be just swapped out with Henry. My main problem with Rebecca is she's absolutely infallible. She has no character flaws, she has no character development. One day, she simply arrives on Sodor. All of a sudden, everyone instantly loves her. She's accepted into Tinmid Sheds, becomes a member of the STEAM team. Everywhere she goes, she fixes everyone's problems. Everywhere she goes, she brightens up everyone's day. There's absolutely nothing interesting to her as a character. She has no flaws, she has no development, no trials. She's just a blank slate. Her role could be replaced with any single other character in the show, hence why I feel Nia is such a better character than her, with her development, her history, etc. And this is one of the reasons I feel like they brought Nia back, but Rebecca, hopefully, has been chucked into the void forever. I mean, I'm not complaining if they made merch on her. Her basis is fire, but everything else? Anyways, next point of contention, the narrow gauge engine. So we know Rheneas is getting a die-cast model. What about the rest of the narrow gauge engines? Well, it's a bit complicated. You would think that if they brought the narrow gauge railway back, of course Skarloey, the alpha male of the railway's namesake, would appear. Or perhaps Duncan, the Predator's undoubtedly favourite Skarloey engine. But I personally don't feel like this is the case. I believe for at least these first few seasons, the Skarloey engines will be relegated to a role reminiscent of the role they played in the Predator era, i.e. an engine comes to the Blue Mountain Quarry, maybe says hi to one or two narrow gauge engines. I feel like this is definitely going to be Rheneas' role, and then leaves. I feel like there won't be any spotlight on them in the first few seasons, so sorry if that's a disappointment, but that's how I genuinely believe it will play out with these small guys. Next, what form is this show actually going to take? Now, I believe this show will be a natural successor to All Engines Go, while taking influences from the Brenner era. So what do I mean by that? I mean, this show will basically be an evolution of All Engines Go. All Engines Go was definitely a show aimed for babies and younger kids, and I feel like as they mature into children, young teenagers, this show will be aimed at them. Hence why it includes All Engine Go characters such as Bruno. Because of that, I have predicted that the art style, the medium of this show, will be essentially a sort of realistic animation. Based on the merchandise and promos that we've gotten so far, I feel like that's the case. For example, Gordon's funky All Engines Go-esque look. However, I feel like, hopefully, they will return to the core roots and storytelling that was so prevalent throughout the classic series, the Brenner era, that real heart and soul of Thomas that we all missed in Rubber. Anyways, even though I'm predicting that this show will be a spiritual successor to All Engines Go, I would be overjoyed if I was proven wrong and they returned to the classic Brenner era. Anyways, on to the next. Edward, the one you've all been waiting for. Where is he? Now, the main reason people speculated Edward was not appearing in 2026 is he was notably missing from the list of announced diecast. However, Edward was announced to be in the show just before Christmas. So what's going on? Now, me personally, I feel like Edward will be returning, despite him not getting a diecast toy. And the reason for this is, to Mattel, Edward simply isn't marketable. his toys were the worst selling of all the Steam team. And I feel like this is one of the major reasons they repeated Gordon. There are 3 blue engines in the show, all with nearly identical liveries. The only aspect of these engines a clueless parent could identify them by is their numbers. Hence why Edward's toys were selling so badly, and he was the first character they decided to drop when transitioning to rubber. Hence, I feel like they changed Gordon's color, but for Edward, it was too much. Now this goes on to my next theory of why engines like Charlie and Wiz beat out some of the classics, like Daisy. They're simply more marketable. They complement the main Steam team and cast in their designs and colours, and parents are more likely to pick them up. Now, looking back at the cast list, you can see this is kind of the case. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean they will appear in the new show, however, if they're just there for marketing purposes. And that brings me to my most major point, and the point that I'd like to all leave you on before I begin my closing remarks. And that is that the merchandise, the leaks, the promos are not, and I repeat, not representative of what we will see in the 2026 show. Now I'd like to highlight an example that's probably the most extreme of this, but here goes. Daisy, the absolute star of the late Brenner era. 6, and I mean 6, spotlight episodes across season 20 and 21. That's more than Thomas. So, what much did she get? Out of the 4 major lines, Wooden Railway, Minis, Trackmaster, and Take and Play. Let's see. Drum roll please. Nothing! That's right, this character, who was arguably more important than Thomas in the final 2 seasons of the Brenner era, got jack shit, for lack of a better word. Except a Bachman model released 5 years later, and when she wasn't relevant anymore, but I digress. Okay, so closing remarks. So, I'd like to end this video on an optimistic note. Despite everything, despite Rubber, despite All Indians Go, the Thomas band survived. The Thomas show survived. The Thomas brand survived. We survived. And we're here now, looking towards 2026. And you know what? For the first time in, what is it now? 7 or 8 years? I am genuinely really excited to be a Thomas fan. Look, we don't know all the details of the new show. It might be garbage, but it has the potential to be great, like everything out there. And that's the note I'd like to leave you on. Hope for the future. Hopefully it all goes well. Anyways, this is Saddle Tank number 6 signing out. Okay, see you guys.